How can a man go from beating Wayne Gretzky and winning 2 consecutive Stanley Cups and then end up on trial for drugs? Kevin Stevens' tale is one of extreme highs and extreme lows, and today we're covering the whole thing. The beginning. Kevin Stevens' journey to NHL stardom began in Brockton, Massachusetts, and continued in Pembroke, where he dominated the ice as a young player on the Hoboken minor hockey team in the 1978 Quebec International Pee Wee Hockey Tournament. At Silver Lake Regional High School in Kingston, he showed his versatility as an athlete, excelling in both hockey and baseball. Despite invitations to try out for the Toronto Blue Jays and Philadelphia Phillies, he chose to pursue his true passion on the ice and accepted a full scholarship to play hockey at Boston College. The LA Kings drafted him in the 6th round of the 1983 NHL draft, but his journey took a surprising twist when he was traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins for Anders Håkansson. After graduating from Boston College in 1987, Kevin joined the U.S. national team, representing the country at the 1987 World Championships and 1988 Winter Olympics. He continued to raise the bar with his play, finishing with an impressive 45 points in 44 games in 1987-88. NHL days. Stevens played a few games with the Penguins during the 1987-88 NHL season, then spent the 1988-89 NHL season bouncing back and forth between the NHL and the International Hockey League's Muskegon Lumberjacks. Beginning with the 1989-90 NHL season, Stevens established himself as one of the league's finest left-wingers and power forwards. From 1990 through 1994, he had 4 consecutive seasons with at least 40 goals and 80 points, and he surpassed 50 goals and 100 points in 1991-92 and 92-93. Stevens scored 2 points more than Wayne Gretzky in the 1991-92 NHL season, becoming only the 3rd person in NHL history to do so in a regular season, though he still finished 2nd in points to teammate Mario Lemieux. His 123 points set a record for the most points scored by an American-born player and a left wing in a single season. The 55 goals he scored the next year tied him with Jimmy Carson for the most goals scored by a US-born player in a single NHL season. That record would remain for another 29 years before being broken on April 7, 2022 by Austin Matthews. Stevens was the only Penguin to play in every regular season and playoff game during the Pittsburgh Penguins' back-to-back Stanley Cup seasons of 1990-91 and 1991-92. He's also one of 4 NHL players to record more than 50 goals and 200 PIM in a single season, along with Keith Tkachuk, Brendan Shanahan, and Gary Roberts. His 17 playoff goals in 1990-91 tie him for 4th all-time. Only Jari Kurri and Reggie Leach with 19 and Joe Sakic with 18 have surpassed that mark. He added 13 more points in the 1991-92 postseason. Stevens became the 25th player in NHL history to score 3 goals in a single playoff period on May 21, 1992, during Game 3 of the Prince of Wales Conference Final against the Boston Bruins. He scored a hat-trick in the first quarter and would add 1 more goal before the game ended. The Penguins defeated the Bruins and then the Chicago Blackhawks to win their 2nd Stanley Cup in a row. Just like Kevin helped the Penguins win the Stanley Cup, you can help us grow our channel by subscribing. So make sure you do to catch all of our latest content. On May 14, 1993, the Penguins faced the New York Islanders in Game 7 of the Patrick Division playoffs. Early in the first period, Stevens rushed in and checked Islanders defenseman Rich Pilon, knocking Pilon unconscious. Stevens slammed face first on the ice and, unable to lessen the impact, destroyed the majority of the bones in his face, necessitating significant reconstructive surgery. Doctors created an incision below his hairline from ear to ear, which was eventually repaired with over 100 sutures, peeled back his skin and used metal plates to reconnect Stevens' face bones. He returned to the Penguins for 1 more successful season in 1993-94 with 41 goals and 47 assists before being traded the following year. Stevens was traded to the Boston Bruins along with Sean McEachran in 1995 in exchange for Glenn Murray and Brian Smolinski, but he never achieved the level of success he did while with the Penguins after being traded. He was dealt to the Los Angeles Kings after disappointing in Boston with 23 points in 41 games. Following a bad season, he was traded to the New York Rangers in 1997 where he had several solid seasons but failed to live up to the expectations placed on him by his previous success with Mario Lemieux and the Penguins. Turning point. Stevens' problems began on the night of May 14, 1993, right after his accident in the Islanders game. Until that time, this guy had never abused any form of non-prescription substance, Stevens' lawyer Kelly explained. All of his subsequent difficulties can be traced back to his addiction to opioids, and from there he leapt into some other things that brought him into some trouble. Since then, Stevens has been fighting for over a quarter-century. He was found in an East St. Louis, Illinois motel with a prostitute and crack cocaine after a game against the St. Louis Blues. Following this incident, Stevens was admitted to the NHL-NHLPA Substance Abuse and Behavioral Health Program. He was released from the program and briefly played for the Philadelphia Flyers before being traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins for the second time. Former teammates, including Lemieux, attempted to assist Stevens in his struggle with drugs and alcohol, but few were successful. In 2017, in an attempt to obtain additional pills, Stevens contacted a dealer who was part of a distribution ring on Boston's South Shore, who was also the subject of an investigation. Stevens agreed to pick up a quantity of oxycodone at a train station, and he did so, receiving 175 pills. That talk had been wiretapped, and Stevens had hardly gotten out of the parking lot when he was arrested by police. The aftermath. The former 50-goal scorer went to court expecting to be led in handcuffs with his family and friends watching, straight to a federal jail. He's been clean and sober for almost a year. He received strong letters of recommendation from Hall of Famers Mario Lemieux and Brian Trottier, among others. He was represented by Paul Kelly, the former executive director of the NHL Players Association. However, he was also found guilty of selling oxycodone in New England, a region where opioid consumption has grown epidemic. Stevens, on the other hand, was sentenced to probation, a $10,000 fine, and community service, which will consist of him speaking to young people about the dangers of prescription drug addiction. The judge decided that Stevens should continue his therapy from an addiction caused by a terrible on-ice accident almost 24 years ago to the day. And there had to be a feeling that Stevens had paid the price for his addiction. He is divorced, no longer plays hockey, and suffers from chronic pain as a result of both the 1993 injury and a near-fatal vehicle accident in which he was involved almost 4 years ago. In my opinion, Stevens is a textbook case of someone who is most certainly suffering from CTE, Kelly said. You can't identify CTE unless it's post-mortem. Kevin Stevens, on the other hand, is walking, living, and breathing CTE. He has all of the symptoms of someone who has had a significant brain injury. Stevens has been painkiller-free since May of last year, according to Kelly, the longest period since 1993. Kelly also stated that Stevens received phone calls from a couple of his former teammates after attending the 25th reunion of the 1992 Stanley Cup winning club. Mario Lemieux and Brian Trottier contacted Kelly and said, "Kevin looks and sounds better than we've seen him in 20 years. He's lost weight, he became cheerful, and he appears to be able to hold a conversation." Kelly added, "There were long stretches of time where he battled episodes of despair and his weight got away from him. However, he currently appears to be in good shape." Stevens now resides in Weymouth, Massachusetts with his fiancée and their 2.5-year-old son. His oldest son Luke, a Carolina Hurricanes draft pick in 2015, has just ended his freshman year at Yale. Kylie plays soccer at Union, while Ryan, the younger son, plays high school hockey at a prestigious school in Boston. Now on to a different topic. Kevin's story is sad, yes, but at least he didn't spend 15 years in prison. Click the link on the screen to watch Tony Demmer's story.